Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Chad Prather Show. Rest in peace, Terry Hulk Hogan. Sad news today. The world of wrestling and now just America always seems to come in threes. We're going to talk about a little bit of that today, as well as Hillary Clinton on tranquilizers. I mean, is anybody surprised at all that she is, the same stuff that they were using to keep zoo animals calm is what she was running on during her presidential campaign in 2016. We got a lot of stuff to get into. Plus, we're going to do a little Chad's Church at the end of the program today. If you're here, I want to see you in the chat. Make sure you blow it up with some of those American flags, and we'll get Party Foul Steve on here in just a little bit. Man, oh man, what a day, what a day, what a beautiful day outside. I'm looking through a window at some of God's creation. It's absolutely glorious. It is gorgeous. I am looking at a beautiful lake, beautiful foliage. It's hot out there. We're going to stay here in the air conditioning of the rehab. Hope everybody is doing well. I see your American flags. Jump in the chat. Let's get involved. Let's rock and roll. We've had some technical difficulties today. Hopefully we're coming through loud and clear. Let me tell you who is always coming through loud and clear. That's our friends over at Patriot Mobile. PatriotMobile.com/Chad. Use promo code Chad. Get over there. They're America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. They operate on the same big three cell towers. Same cell towers as the big three operate on, so you don't have to worry about losing coverage or dropping any calls. You're going to get the same stuff that you're accustomed to having. The difference is when you pay your bill, you know that a portion of your bill is not going to be sent off to these crazy lefty lunatic progressive programs out there, stuff like Planned Parenthood and all these other weirdo funky places where those being run by activists. No, they're going to make sure that they support your First Amendment, Second Amendment, your Bill of Rights, all the constitutional values you believe in, as well as keeping the faith. So if you got your cell phone number, you can take it over there, get you a new phone, get a new cell number with an old phone, whatever you need to do. They got the combination for you. Patriot Mobile, they will give you free activation. If you're a first responder, active duty military, or a veteran hero, they will take care of you, and they'll give you a free month if you use promo code Chad. Call them on the phone, 972-PATRIOT, 100% U.S.-based customer service team. It's not like you're calling 1-800-Pakistan over there. You can actually understand what these people have to say on the phone. So call them up. Go to patriotmobile.com/Chad. Use promo code Chad while you're over there. All right. Let's get right into this thing. Let me bring Party Foul Steve on this deal. There he is right there, buddy. Ding dong.
Hey, good afternoon, buddy.
So we pre-recorded some stuff earlier today, and we had a little glitch. So here we are. We're live. We're in person. We're rocking and rolling. So we're going to have some of the same conversation we've already had, Steve. First of all,
well rehearsed. No, I don't know about that. I've already forgotten what we talked about.
I know. And I want to. There's. We talk more than men should. We really do. We talk a lot. We got that foot and mouth disease. It's been an interesting week on social media, that's for sure. It's been encouraging to me because I've had an opportunity to share some things about faith with the passing of Ozzy Osbourne. And also, now it always seems to come in threes. So on Sunday, we lost Malcolm Jamal Warner. Then then Ozzy Osbourne, Hulk Hogan. Gen X can't get a break, man. But we found out just a little while ago that Hulk Hogan passed away from cardiac arrest, and sad deal, passed away at the age of 71. Again, you can't pump yourself full of steroids throughout your life and do the things to your body that Terry Hulk Hogan did, and you're living fast, man. You're living fast and loose. So 71 is way too young, but passed away at the age of 71. Had a heart attack apparently, and it's a sad deal. You and I have been kind of close with a lot of people in the wrestling community. We've never been able to spend any time with the Hulkster, right?
No, I wanted to also, and especially with the recent recent following Jesus Christ and him and his wife being baptized.
You froze up there. This was
that was just
a couple
me
of days.
freezing, not knowing what to say.
Was facing. Hang on, Steve. Hang on. You went out there a little bit. You glitched. So we're going to get that thought from you again in a second. Everybody else might have heard it, but I didn't hear it. Jimmy Hart revealed that Hulk Hogan was facing serious health issues, suffering damage to his windpipe, currently unable to speak. He said things don't look good at all. That was 2 days ago from Jimmy Hart, and he's not looking good in that picture. But yeah, anyway, the Hulkster, that's living fast and hard, dude. And you remember this from the RNC. Hang on before we play that clip. Steve, say again what you were just saying a second ago.
I was saying that he had recently professed his belief in Jesus Christ and taking him as his Lord and Savior. And that's one of those things that's good to hear, because a lot of times you just don't know. And with everything that went on with your comments, I guess you would say, with Ozzy, just saying, hey, I hope this guy, was right with his maker.
Yeah, and everybody's come at me about that. I mean, again, I want people to quit with the disillusionment of, oh, he was the most wonderful human being that's ever existed. How dare you even question anything? The guy literally made a career out of calling himself the Prince of Darkness, okay, and toying with paganism as a persona. I think it was a fair question, but regardless, we're not going to get back into that too much. Hulk Hogan did profess faith. We'll talk about that here in just a little bit. This was him back at the RNC when he came out and endorsed Trump there at the RNC. Play this clip, everybody.
And I see all the real Americans. I think about how Donald Trump, his family was compromised. When I look out there and I see Donald Trump, I think about how his business was compromised. But what happened last week when they took a shot at my hero and they tried to kill the next president of the United States? Enough was enough. And I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother. Let Trumpomania rule again. Let Trumpomania make America great again.
His heart was pumping right then.
I mean,
he was on fire for Trump, wasn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, you have a heart attack getting all fired up. I mean, he's put a lot of pressure on himself over the years. And again, we've known a lot of people. Mark Calloway, Undertaker. He's a good friend of ours, as well as Dustin Runnels, Dustin Rhodes. We've crossed paths with a lot of these guys and spent some time with them. And these guys, they put their bodies through a lot of chaos, man, over the years. They're big time athletes and also showmen. So the stuff that goes into that, it's not like these are. They could pump all kind of things into their body over the years in order to be, showmen on that. But he did profess faith, and that's an encouraging thing. He and his wife 18 months ago proclaimed Christ, as well as was baptized, which, I still remind everybody, and this is what he said. Scroll back up there just a little bit, David. We see the baptism there, but he says total surrender and dedication to Jesus. The greatest day of my life. No worries, no hate, no judgment, only love. I think that's a pretty solid profession of faith, which is very encouraging. I remind everybody, sort of like I said about Ozzy, just because somebody gives you a Bible or you wear a cross or you say God bless, or even if you get dunked in the water, that's not in and of itself a saving act. Baptism, an outward expression of an inward transformation that's happening inside of you. And so, regardless of what people are, what they aren't, you believe everything. When people see this stuff on the internet, I get people that send me all these articles that were AI manufactured by somebody in Nigeria. If you spend as much time on the internet as I have researching things, you can usually see through those things. And everybody wants to create a reality. I mean, I'm sick to death of. I saw some AI story yesterday about Ozzy Osbourne, some letter that had been sealed since 1990 that he handed to Sharon on his deathbed about his funeral arrangements. I'm like, all that's created by AI. We saw that junk through the floods. I can't stand it. I hate it, but these people interpret it as reality. Life is real. Death is real. Our good buddy Jesse Kelly said, I'm not one of these everything was better back in my day people, but I cannot properly describe how much different the 80s were than what we have today. It was fun and happy and patriotic and ridiculous and over the top. It was wonderful. And my great-grandmother would tell you in a heartbeat that wrestling was real. She cut you.
Yeah, I was, we always watched wrestling on, I guess the live Houston wrestling was on Saturday night, but we watched it on Sunday morning before we went to church. So
yeah.
we were amped up watching,
So-
all them guys.
So two of the big epicenters for wrestling, you had Fort Worth, Texas, the Von Erichs, those guys, and Stone Cold. A lot of those guys came through there. Then you had Augusta, Georgia, there at the Civic Center. Man, there was a lot of wrestling there. My grandmother, she'd see that stuff. She better not tell her it was fake, man. She'd whoop your ass over that kind of deal. So anyway, rest in peace, Hulk Hogan. And there's going to be people, I saw already on social media people coming out talking about his daughter and his ex. And, they both follow me on Twitter. I've had some interaction with the Hogans. And, they've always been good conservative folks, seem to be agreeing with things that we're saying. And it's neither here nor there, because when it comes to life or death, it's not about politics. I want to see you guys in the chat blowing it up, rocking and rolling in there. Good to see you guys on here. September 1st, something's happening, Steve.
Yes.
It's going to happen September 1st, my friend. We are going to be going bigger, bolder, badder, better, rebranded for the Chad Prather Show. And I'm excited about it, man. We're working hard to rebrand some things, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Only thing not changing is you and I, our pretty faces.
Well, I mean, you're on the bubble. You're on the bubble, Steve, so we'll see. Yeah. We'll see. We're trying to make this thing into a for-profit business. That's what we're trying to do. So we really are trying to regrow the show and rebuild it. We're 100%, 1,000% rebranded, independent. It is me, you, and our producer, sometimes seen, and I wish he was seen more often and heard more often, David Medina at David Medina PDX. All right, pop that story up there, David. Let's see.
Real quick, Chad, I need to clarify something to everyone, because I know there's rumors out there that I write all your monologues, I write all your jokes. I'm just here to put that to rest. I do not do any of that. I know how intelligent they are and stuff like that. That's just not me.
Is that the rumor? Is that the deal?
That's a big rumor. I hear it all the time.
Yeah, that's cool.
Man, I know you write those. Just so eloquent and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, heck yeah, man. Just take the credit, Steve.
Not going to take credit for it.
Take the credit. No, mostly, I'm of course sort of a stream of consciousness kind of guy. I've made a living talking real fast, and I try to just keep on rocking and rolling and moving and shaking. Pop it up there, David. Let's see what we got. Mute your microphone, too. I got that static in my ear. House Senate Democrats just objected to approving a resolution that called for all available Epstein files to be released. Brought to you by Senator Mark Wayne Mullen. He is, of course, from Oklahoma. Would you look at that? It's all about political games. They don't care. Every voter needs to see this. I ask for unanimous consent. That's Senator Mullins, of course. And then Senator Gallego reserving the right to object. Play the clip.
Courts control the grand jury. The judges that oversee the courts control the grand jury. We, in this body, can have resolutions back and forth and suggest that it be done, but truthfully, the judges have to do it. AG Bondi and the president has both already called upon the judges to release this information. What my resolution is simply saying is we agree with the president, we agree with AG Bondi on the judges and calling upon the judges to release it. So as if in legislation session and notwithstanding Rule 22, I ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to the consideration of S-Res 335, which is at the desk. Further, I ask unanimous consent that the resolution be agreed to, the preamble be agreed to, and that the motion to reconsider be considered and laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate.
All right.
Reserving the right.
So, somebody said to me the other day, or they said to me today, they had a checklist of things that I've posted on Instagram in the last 5 days. They said, you're still trying to cover up for Epstein, which is the most dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. Again, if you're getting your brainwashing from Instagram only, I encourage people to watch this show. We've talked a lot about Epstein, and again, now that they've come out and they've said, that apparently Trump was informed that he was in the Epstein files. There is a difference between a list. I don't think there is a list. I've never said there's a list. It would be so corrupted, so defiled, so defrauded at this point, you couldn't trust it. But I do think there are files out there that have evidence, and they need to go through that, because if you just tossed anybody out on public blast out there, they would automatically be assumed guilty of the same crimes and sins as Jeffrey Epstein. I think you have to be careful with that, but we do need to get to the bottom of this. We need to find out if there are, those nefarious foundational threads in our society still existing in the echelons of power in the halls of whether it's politics, Hollywood, or business, whatever it may be, captains of industry, the DOJ, anything. Let's find where the corruption is. Let's expose it.
Part of this is, some of this is smoke and mirrors, and I think there is a list. That's where I disagree with you. I don't know that the federal government has that list, but there's a list somewhere.
Well, maybe. I don't know. And again, people talk about like there's a list, like Jeffrey Epstein was sitting there, writing names down on a piece of paper and says, I got this guy, got this guy, got this guy. There's a difference between us being associated with somebody and being a client of somebody. And I think if you really saw who the client list was, you would be shocked at how unimpressive it is, because we have thought for so long, we've built up in our heads this idea that all of these certain celebrities are on there. Listen, Hollywood and that trash, we saw through the Diddy files, they didn't need Jeffrey Epstein to be perverts. Like they didn't need all of that. You could be perverted. It's like perversion didn't just suddenly burst on the scene when Jeffrey Epstein started doing weird crap down in West Palm Beach, Florida. Like that's not where perversion came from. It's been around forever. As long as there's been people with money and power and control, there's always been perversion with their ability to get away from it. So the Epstein list isn't the be-all, end-all. I've told you that Jeffrey Epstein, his list, his files, any of that is not ultimately the disease. That's the symptom. It's the boil on the butt, right? It's the one that just reminds you that it's the drip that's making you know you got chlamydia. I don't even know if that's what that is. But anyway.
Let's see it all. Let's just see it all. Let the people.
But I mean, people say, well, there's a list. A list of what? I mean, a list of what? There's files. I think there's files. There might be a black book. There might be flight logs. I mean, we know those exist. But again, that's a list. That doesn't tell you the guilt. There's got to be a file. There's got to be charges that are brought, some kind of evidence that's out there. And I think that's what Mark Wayne Mullen from Oklahoma is saying, is let's take a look at this. If there's case files out there, if there's studies, if there's evidence, if there's that, let's make it transparent. Let's take a look at it. Let's see what smoking guns are out there, and let's find out.
But they've had 5 or 6 years to tamper with stuff as well.
That's my point. So
Right.
if you're just looking for something, I mean, the Biden administration, the Obama administration, all these people have had access to these things for a long time. And what it's been done to it, what level of corruption is there, to me, that is the ultimate question, is what is there and what can we get a hold of?
People talk about the flight logs. The flight logs really don't mean a whole lot unless they were going directly to the island, because his plane was used by different people from different times going other places.
Yeah, and I mean, let's live in the real world and come out of the fantasy illusion of controversy and conspiracy. There might have been people who went to that island and never known anything was going on wrong on that island.
Yeah.
I mean,
I heard the jet skis were amazing as well.
I mean, I don't believe that Bill Clinton went down there 27 times for the jet skis. I don't believe that. I mean, I know people who have sailed past that island. Are they guilty because they sailed past it? They said, hey, that was Epstein's island. So anyway, we're going to see what comes out about this, and I hope it's something. I hope it's something that's actionable, because I think people are sick to death of all of these things. Now, there are some smoking guns that are coming out that I don't think is a surprise to anybody. Before we get into that, though, let me remind you about our friends over at American Financing. Call them today and see if they can help you consolidate some of your debt, particularly some of the equity that you've got in your home. They're saving people an average of $800 a month. I mean, come on, folks. That's an extra $10,000 a year, roughly, that you're making and keeping of your own money, because you're not having to pay off these crazy wild credit card debts with these 29% APRs. They get they're not commission based. They're salary based, so you don't have to worry about them, trying to upcharge you or sell you something that you don't need. American Financing is great. They're good folks. They're nice folks. You can call them on the phone at 888-961-4143, or visit and find out more at americanfinancing.net/Chad. When you call them, tell them I sent you. And they're salary based, which is an amazing tactic of honesty right there. So they can help you get those bills down. You might even miss 2 mortgage payments because they're going to do a refinance on your home, get that equity out of there, and again, save you possibly $800 a month. So that's a good deal. So before it's too late, call American Financing today, 888-961-4143. Talk to them on the phone. You can visit americanfinancing.net/Chad. And let them help you out. People are drowning in credit card debt. It's insane. All right, we find out, Steve, something that we expected. First, we already knew that Hillary Clinton was a psycho. But this is Charlie Kirk. He says, this was yesterday, page 17 of the declassified House Intelligence Committee reports wild. It reveals that Russia had huge amounts of potential anti-Clinton dirt, sat on it the final days of the 2016 campaign. Let me tell you why they sat on it, because Russia wanted Hillary to get elected. They thought that she was a shoo-in. They thought the fix was in. The Democrats thought the fix was in. They thought there was no way Donald Trump was going to win. Putin likes the idea of an Obama or a goofy war hawk like Hillary Clinton or even Joe Biden, because as soon as Joe Biden got in that debacle with the evacuation from Afghanistan, what did he do? He invaded Ukraine because he saw. So they said that there were claims of heavy tranquilizers that she was on. She was suffering from intensified psycho-emotional problems.
Okay, heavy tranquilizers, Chad. That's kind of... They're using a big word, tranquilizer, because I think of like tranquilizers for horses and stuff because they're so big, but we're talking about regular kind of drugs like Valium and
but what dose was she on?
It's the normal.
And again, you're talking about
kind of stuff. It's the normal kind of drugs that anybody with bipolar is on.
But I don't need the commander-in-chief to be bipolar. That's the issue.
And
they wanted her again.
Thank God she's not.
But again, they want somebody controllable. Obama wanted somebody controllable. The deep state wanted somebody controllable. That's why they put a puppet like Joe Biden in there. Look, Hillary Clinton, when you realize she's running for the highest office in the land, all right, and she's chemically sedated. I mean, when you're operating, listen, Valium ain't no small deal. Xanax ain't no small deal. Benzodiazepines are no small deal. I mean, when she's out there goofy as she could be looking.
She's on drugs.
I mean, yeah, when she, and we said this, like when she sees the balloons dropping at the DNC right there, ooh. I mean, when she's doing all this stuff, and she's, she faints on camera right here. This is 9/11. And, we're sitting there. So here's the deal. You got declassified intelligence courtesy of Tulsi Gabbard, who was a Democrat candidate for president. And you got documents from the Obama administration that are buried so deep that it takes a SEAL team to retrieve them, basically. Now, you got the media out here gaslighting everybody. And Hillary's the most prepared candidate in American history. And you got behind closed doors, her people, even Obama's inner circle, were worried that she was going to malfunction mid-interview. They knew it. They all knew it. They were reporting it. What was it Obama said in this report? Says he was extraordinarily alarmed by her medical condition.
So now this automatically makes you think about what state of mind was she in during the whole Benghazi stuff?
Right.
So, I mean, was she on drugs then? We should know. Is that a reason that stuff was ignored?
Listen, they numbed her up, they zipped her into a pantsuit, handed her a microphone and said, "Smile, Hillary, and say, I'm with her." But see, according to the Russian Intercepts, the same people the left has been blaming for Trump winning all along, they picked up the chatter from inside the DNC saying she was dealing with everything from heart disease, diabetes, COPD, deep vein thrombosis, some pretty intense psycho-emotional breakdowns. They said, she had these, which again, they didn't say mild anxiety meds. She wasn't on Lexapro. This is not a little something to take the edge off. This is not Prestique.
She sounds like an all-American right there with the diabetes and all those like the same problems that.
You wonder why after she lost, she's walking around in the woods in her muumuu for days at a time. She's being medically muffled
Yeah,
like a
she's out there-
bomb they didn't know how to disarm, bro.
They let her walk in the woods so she could scream at the trees, probably.
I'm telling you. So they said she's got uncontrollable outbursts of anger, random surges of emotion, mood swings. I mean, they even said they were medicating because she had episodes of cheerfulness. So obviously she is on a manic spectrum, which I find funny that cheerfulness is so out of character for her that they feel the need to medicate her.
Yeah, hey, but that's it. When you see somebody, a normal person, we all know that negative Nancy, kind of person. I'm just throwing that name out there. I don't know anybody that's negative named Nancy, but it's when you see them out of character, happy about something, you kind of go, all right, what's happening next? Because
Why is she so giggly?
Yeah.
And you see the clip here. This was 9/11. They said she had pneumonia. We said something's wrong with her. And they said, no, she overheated. She's got pneumonia. They toss her in the van. Some people are saying, she's being arrested right here. She's handcuffed. Stop it. I don't know where you people come up with this stuff. I'd love to hear in the chat just what dose of medication you guys think that Hills was on. But I mean, this woman was comatose. And you can see now that's what they want because they don't want anyone making the decisions. I'll go even further. This is why they don't want a Gavin Newsom to be the candidate in 2028. Because this is a guy, regardless of what you think of him, who tries to think for himself. And the DNC doesn't want that. In fact, neither party wants that. That's why they hate Trump so bad.
And I'm no medical expert. I'm not anything to do. But when
you don't even have to qualify anything by saying that first.
But when you start medicating with one drug to do one thing and something to counteract its side effects, and now you got to counteract that one's side effects, and then you got and stack a couple other things on there, up, down, these anything for suppress your diet. I mean, all these drugs, man, you're going to be screwed up. And
You're
that's the nicest. That's the nicest way that I can say it.
Yeah, you're jumbled up. You're jumbled up in there. Now, according to the same report, Putin chose not to release the health info because he thought she was guaranteed to win. So you got to let that sink in. Vladimir Putin sat there looking at the presidential candidates and said, she's a lock even if she's half conscious. And that's how inevitable she looked in this election. Nobody expected Trump to win. And instead of raising a red flag, they rolled out a red carpet for her. So it's not just about Hillary Clinton. The issue is this is about the machine. They tried to sneak her into power like a Trojan horse, like it was her turn to run the board of directors. She's full of pills and ambition, right? It's about the political elite that lies straight to our face every day. And they call you a sexist if you complain about her. They said you were crazy for even suggesting that she might not be right in the head. And then, she collapses at the 9/11 memorial, toss her into a van like a bag of laundry, and we're supposed to, say this overheating. No, that was a system crash. Like you said, that is literally a media hit just doing Control-Alt-Delete on the truth, and she just crumples right there because she's a mixture. She's a freaking milkshake at this point. And now you got a decade later, basically we're 9 years later, and the receipts are coming out. Nobody's outraged. The media's not going crazy. If this had happened to Donald Trump and this information came out and they could have a smoking gun like this, let me tell you, Rachel Maddow would have an orgasm on MSNBC. Right there. She would just lose her freak, which is gross. Nobody wants to see Lurch have an orgasm. But there's no outrage. There's no apology to her from the pundits who mocked us and dared to, we asked the questions back then. We want to talk about the election interference, but it was the real stuff. This was a coordinated effort to hide a candidate's actual medical condition. We saw it with Joe Biden. Now we're seeing a trend because they did it with Hillary Clinton. And they labeled everybody skeptical as a Russian bot. She's the one who called us a basket of deplorables. And don't pretend the Clinton camp didn't know this was going to leak. They knew it. And the reason I know they knew it is because they're not saying anything about it. There's no legal threats. There's no libel. There's no press conferences. Just quiet. You know why? Because the story is too true for them to spin it. And there's no threat of her ever gaining power ever again, so they don't have to protect her.
Yeah, she's not running for jack nothing.
Yeah. And the one that's releasing all this, Tulsi Gabbard, she's the one that caught all the flack. They literally said that she was a Russian asset. Hillary Clinton said that Tulsi Gabbard.
That was after she left the Democratic Party, right? Because she was a Democrat and went independent, correct? She ran for president as well.
Yeah.
Same year with Hillary, right?
Yeah. And
Okay.
don't forget, Jeffrey Epstein did make a large donation to the Clinton Foundation back, I think, in 2006. So, you want to tell me that Trump is unfit for office because he's walking down a slippery, wet ramp at a graduation deal at a military academy in leather-soled shoes, or the way he drinks his water to keep the drops from hitting his tie. And they're going to do that. And you got Hillary that's apparently sleeping off tranquilizers between coughing fits and losing battles with gravity. And they're just going to brush it off like it's old news, like it doesn't matter anymore. But it does matter, because if they covered this up, what else are they burying? What do we not know? Because we know this is the same political machine that lied about COVID, its origins, how bad it was. They buried the laptop. They slow walked the JFK files, still are. They're turning the Jeffrey Epstein death into a punchline instead of a scandal. If you bring anything up, I can't even keep up with what I am anymore. Like, is it a hoax? Am I supposed to be uncovering it? Am I supposed to be calling it out? Am I supposed to be being quiet about it? I'm more confused. I'm more confused than Hillary on drugs. Okay, I don't know what I'm supposed to be anymore. So it's top to bottom, bottom to the top, absolute rot in the swamp. And they want you just to forget it because they're going to label you as being an extremist. See, that's the whole deal.
Yeah.
And it's not being extreme. It's just freaking being awake and asking questions.
They're just going to take the opposite side. The left's going to take the opposite thing. So sometimes I think they should say one thing just so they can get that reaction of the opposite and then switch.
Yeah, well, like I
Just to watch
said,
them.
it's institutional brainwashing, and nobody has any trust in our institutions. You can't believe anything coming out of Washington anymore. And, everybody apparently is drugged up, having sex parties in the basement. I don't freaking know anymore.
I don't either, but I do. We've come to a point in this country, we have to look at things, and we have to look at these people that are running for president that are in their late 60s and early 70s. I just don't.
Or in their mid to late 70s.
Yeah, I'm like, we got to get younger. As I'm getting older, I'm still saying no. You don't need people 70 years old running for that office.
We don't need geriatrics running the country. I mean, we just don't. And I mean, and again, how in the ever living heck can you spend 50 years in public office or running for politics with constant scrutiny and criticism and expect them to be in their right mind? I mean, they're still humans. They're still humans. So how you expect them to be in their right mind?
Yeah.
They're not. So, of course, they're going to be drugged up. I mean, you got Donald Trump. They diagnosed him with having the vein thing in his hand. It's from an excessive amount of shaking hands over the years.
Yeah, shaking hands. That's what
they diagnosed him with. When I was with Trump, there in the White House, there in the Oval Office, I don't know if you know if I was there back in February or not, but he had a bruise on the back of his hand. You could tell it was from shaking hands. But he's diagnosed with that. So that's Trump's problem, been shaking too many hands. All right. Let's this is Hulk Hogan. This is alleged, I think. This is the video of him being taken away from his home on a stretcher. This is a sad deal.
That could be anybody. That could be my neighbor.
Well, unless you live next door to him and you're filming
so.
that, so. Because you could hear her say, yeah, that's him.
They're looking at you now.
So, yeah.
Yeah, those houses are a little bit nicer than mine, I think. Big old giant 3-story house.
I mean, I could probably tell if it was yours or not, but.
Yeah, it's not.
Well, sad deal.
Yeah.
You just remember, folks, life is finite. It's, we may not be a headline one day, but ultimately we do have to stand in the same face of eternity. So let's segue over to a little Chad's Church. Let's do it. We got a couple of more minutes left in the show. You got some questions, Steve. I know we were going to do the questions and answers deal. We try to pin some questions down from people who ask them, and sometimes we get sent stuff. So
Yeah, I pulled some from both.
All right.
I'm
What do,
sent-
what do we got? See if I got
All right.
answers for the questions.
All right.
Are you ready for this in the chat? I want to see you guys. Let me throw something in there. Throw some praying hands or the flag or some fire or some dancing Trump or the swinging pickle, whatever it is that Linda likes to post in there.
Okay, I'm going to ask this question, then I'm going to give my really short, quick answer, and then you can elaborate on your answer. How about
All
that?
right.
Because
All
I
right,
like to
give it to
answer
me.
questions too. Okay,
Give it to
is God still speaking, or are we just not listening? My quick answer is yes, he speaks all the time. We just ain't listening.
Yeah. Well, everybody's listening to something, right? I mean, what was it? They did a study recently where they talk about people spend about 7 hours a day on their screens. There's always somebody talking. I mean, we're caught up in everything. And I feel convicted every time I get that screen report on my, each week. It tells me what I averaged, because it's more than 7 hours a day. I'm on a screen constantly. But let me ask you this. You ever been sitting in a crowded room and you're paying attention to something and you don't even realize when somebody's called your name? Like we do that all the time with you, Steve.
We do that all the time,
Yeah.
because especially you and I, Tony, if we're out to lunch or something, we're all on our phones doing something,
Yeah.
and one of us will say something and nobody heard each other.
Yeah, no. And that happens. So, we've got the volume cranked up on life, everything from podcasts in our ears to notifications. Like even right now, I got notifications going off on my phone. You got group chats that are buzzing and your mind is running at full speed. And yet you think you're supposed to hear from God in the middle of all of that, when you got a God who generally, when he speaks, is usually in a whisper or is just in a little urging. And so, when that happens, you kind of think that maybe heaven's gone quiet. And you ever been around those people who's like, man, this person's either really intuitive or they really hear God. And I don't think that the whispers from God ever really stopped. I mean, obviously you can hear from God by reading the scripture, through circumstances, through creation. I'm looking at this gorgeous, beautiful view that I've got outside of my window here. And, you can hear God through, just the things that happen in life. But sometimes you treat prayer sort of like a voicemail, not a conversation. You just kind of toss up a few, Lord help me, and then you scroll back to TikTok 5 seconds later. And then you want to blame God for not ever answering you. So, really we're the ones who walked away without even giving God a chance to talk back. And he hasn't ghosted us. We've sort of ghosted him. John says in the Bible, John 10:27, my sheep hear my voice. That means God's still speaking. The problem isn't the sender, it's the signal. We've got the wrong antenna up. We're listening to everything else. And it's really hard to hear God when your heart's tuned into every other frequency except God, because we've grown so used to the dramatic and the loud and the next headline and what celebrity's dying or whatever, that you've forgotten that God usually shows up in the stillness. You remember the story in 1 Kings 19. Elijah the prophet has just called down fire on these prophets of Baal. And then he goes off into the cave somewhere and he's depressed and he's lonely and he's asking God to kill him because, he doesn't find God in the windstorm or in the fire or in the earthquake, but he finds, it says that God came to him in a whisper. And it was in that whisper, in that stillness, that got his attention. But see, we've got spiritual ADD. I mean, we really have that attention deficit disorder, and we want the burning bush moment, right? We're not going to sit still long enough to recognize if there's a burning in our own soul. We're looking for that thing that's curious, and we're like, wow, God must really be talking to me in this. But if we're really honest, I don't think we really want to hear from God. We want God to validate what we've already decided to do. And we don't hear God because he's telling us something that's uncomfortable to go do. And we want confirmation and not confrontation. And that's very rarely what God does for us when he speaks. Because if God speaks, you're now on the hook for being accountable to obey what he said. If God says, hey, let it go, or forgive them, or walk away, or trust me, you can't pretend you didn't hear that. So it's easier to keep the noise up and easier to drown him out and say, well, he's just being quiet. I'm not hearing God. But silence doesn't always mean, doesn't mean absence. Sometimes God already spoke and now he's waiting on you to respond and obey. And you're asking for a fresh word while you ignored the old one. You want a breakthrough, but you don't want to obey in the basics. So you don't need another sign. You need to go back to the last thing he said and actually do that, or at least get involved with what you see God doing, because the word still speaks. The Holy Spirit still nudges. Jesus is still the living word. And if you're wondering where to start, open your Bible. You know, that's the book that isn't dead ink on pages. It's the breath of God written for people, you know, is written down for people like us who keep forgetting he's already spoken. So before you ask, you know, God, why aren't you talking to me? Maybe just take a second and ask yourself, have I actually been listening? Have I been reading my Bible? The book of Hebrews chapter 1 says that God has spoken in these last days in his son Jesus. Jesus is the final word. If you think you're hearing from God and it's not pointing you to Jesus, you're not hearing from God, because what God is saying, everything that he does is just a laser pointer to Christ. And so ultimately, is God still speaking? Yes. Why aren't we hearing? It's the lack of attention or the other distractions and noise in our life. How's that?
I like that, because I do think often God speaks through other people sometimes, and we just don't. If it comes out of your mouth, or let's say I'm listening to you, sometimes those could be words straight from God that I needed to hear. But if it's something that draws you closer to the Lord, I mean, that's something. I mean, and a lot of times if you're trying to hear from God, but you hadn't spent any time in the Bible, well, I mean, it's like fishing in a swimming pool. You ain't got nothing in there to catch. Yeah,
you haven't hidden the word in your heart. You're right.
There's been plenty of times I felt like I've heard from God, and I just ran the other way. I was like, nope, try to ignore that. And
well, what is it? You know, when Jesus told Peter, his disciple, that he was going to deny him, and Peter said, "Not so, Lord," you know, not so. Or when he was going to wash his feet, he said, "Not so, Lord." And Peter had this way of saying, "No, Lord." You can't say no, Lord, because if you say no, he's not Lord. And if he's Lord, you can't say no. Because when he says something to you, now you're on the hook to obey it. And you can't keep asking for another word if you keep ignoring the last word. Amen. That's the hard part. So be careful when you ask God to talk, because he might actually tell you something. There's a lot of things, like even asking for stuff like asking for patience. Do you know what it takes to get patience? A whole lot of waiting.
I just felt over my life, instead of I spend more time thanking God than I do asking.
Same.
I don't know if is that a mentality thing with the way that we do?
I think that I'm a poor chooser, and so I'm not real good at knowing what I need in my life. So I'm like, all right, God, you give me mercy and grace. I know I want those, and then you'll direct my steps. And as I walk with you, I'll let peace be the umpire of my soul. And if that peace is guiding me, because if it's chaos, I try to get away from it. If it's confusion, if it's pain, I try to get away from it. God put that inside of us. And that's another way. Pain is one of the ways God speaks to us, by the way. If you ever put your hand, pain is a gift. Pain is a gift. You put your hand on a hot stove, and pain tells you to take it off. That's a gift. If you didn't feel that pain, you'd really hurt yourself. Pain is a way to get away from something that God's not up to. So anyway.
Well, okay. I'm gonna follow. This question leads right into the next one with what you were saying. What does it mean to follow Jesus in It's year 2025. What does it mean to follow Jesus?
Well, I think it means the same thing to follow Jesus in the first century when he was physically walking in the earth. I mean, everybody says they're following Jesus these days. Everybody's got it on their Instagram bio. You know, half the time it feels more like a branding statement than, some life-altering commitment, like we've turned Christian into an aesthetic, like a vibe or a social media filter. You throw Bible verses in your bios, you wear your cross necklaces. I mean, this is what I got attacked with all week long. You post your Easter selfies with the family, and there's nothing wrong with those things, but that doesn't mean you're actually following Christ. I mean, you might just be familiar with his name, because Jesus never said, promote me. Jesus never said, agree with me. He said, follow me. And that's not the comfortable catch a sermon and go back to living however you want kind of follow. I'm talking about the kind that requires something, the kind that costs, the kind that flips your whole life upside down and asks you to walk on a narrow road that's not easy, one of balance, one that everybody else is on cruise control down the highway of convenience. And the truth is, you got a lot of people that want Jesus as a Savior, but they don't want Jesus as a Lord. Because when you have him as Lord, he comes with requirements, and I don't like that. I don't like those boxes having to be checked. So you want the rescue and not the ruler. You want him to save us from our sin, but not to tell us how to live. Because the gospel isn't just a get out of hell free card. It's a full-on call to die to yourself. Jesus said in Luke 9:23, he said, if anybody wants to follow me, he's got to deny himself, take up his cross daily and follow me. And let's be real, denying yourself in 2025, that's freaking hard to do. I mean, that's about as countercultural as it gets. I mean, we live in a world that says, be your own truth. Live your own way, chase your own dreams, put it on a credit card. Jesus said, lay it all down and follow me, not because he wants to control you so much as because he knows what real life actually looks like. And that kind of following, it ain't about believing the right stuff. It's about letting him lead your choices, your desires, your relationships, your reactions, your future. And that's discipleship, because ultimately discipleship is discipline, and that's surrender. But we've watered it down to church attendance, as long as they got good coffee in the lobby and good vibes, and we've created a version of Christianity that's heavy on the comfort and real light on the conviction. And then we wonder why people don't see any power in it and why people don't hear from God, because it doesn't change anything. We've been trying to follow Jesus without carrying the cross, smuggle our own souls into heaven without taking anybody with us. And that's not how this works. We don't understand that there's certain things in our lives that God don't want to go to heaven with us. And so he's crucifying those things. And the cross is where you crucify your pride and your plans, your preferences. It's where you say, Jesus, you lead, I'm going to follow, even if it's unpopular, even if it costs me friends, following. I'm not going to get the clicks and the likes. It's going to stretch me. It's going to bring persecution. The Apostle Paul said, don't be surprised when your Christian life brings you persecution, because it actually should be an outcropping of what you get. It's going to get you labeled weird, old-fashioned, radical, puritanical, Victorian. We don't want to hang with that guy. He makes us uncomfortable. But look around. Nobody's desperate for more cool Christians. Nobody wants that. I don't need another Christian celebrity. People are desperate for something freaking real in these days, man. Something solid, something holy, not a drugged up politician. But we want something that's real and authentic, the kind of authenticity that only comes when you stop trying to fit Jesus into your life in order to make it look good and sound good, and instead you let him rebuild your life from the ground up. That's what I'm trying to do in these days. And it's been hard as hell for me to deal with certain things in my life, and at the same time try to hear what God's saying and follow him. Because listen, following Jesus doesn't mean you're perfect. I've been accused of that all week long. People thinking I'm setting myself up on some high horse. No, I've seen hell. I've seen brokenness. I've seen death. I've seen depravity. I've seen sin. I've seen the bottom of addiction. I've seen it. I've seen what happens when you're ready to just let it all go because it's not worth it anymore, and I'm ready to swallow a bullet. But that's not what God wants for us. What he wants is not for you to think you're perfect, but to be surrendered, because you've messed up and you've repented. I mean, really repented, not just realigned yourself. You've changed your mind. You're still wrestling with stuff, but you got your eyes on Jesus. And it means you don't get to lead with your feelings anymore, because now you're being led with faith. So if you've been stuck, like we all have, in that middle space, like I believe in God, but I don't feel close to him, maybe the answer isn't more information. Maybe it's more obedience. Maybe it's more time, to stop spectating and actually step in and do something, because Jesus isn't looking for fans. He doesn't need fans. He needs followers, right? And so the road's going to be narrow, but the destination, eternal life, peace that doesn't make sense, a purpose bigger than you. That's what's on the other side of the cross. And the only question left is, are you really following, or are you just hanging around the crowd hoping to catch the benefits without the burden? So what does it mean to look like to follow? What does it look like to follow Jesus in the 21st, in the 21st century? Same thing as it did in the first one.
Amen.
What else?
All right.
God, I got to breathe.
Yeah, take a breath, because I'm going to ask the question, then I'll say a little something. Okay, does God still perform miracles, or are we just unwilling to see them? And I think the answer to this is we're just unwilling to see them. They're there. We're all looking for the parting of the Red Sea and stuff.
Well,
However,
and I guess
those miracles, what one person, they may see something and it's not a miracle to them, but to the next person it could be the biggest miracle that they could ever see. Well,
there's two ideas of thought theologically. There's cessationism or continuation. Ism, I guess you would say.
That's big words. You're going to have to break it down for me.
Well, cessation means like miracles stopped with the death of the apostles in the first century, and continuation means a miracle can still happen. What is a miracle? A miracle is something that transcends natural law. It doesn't break it. If I'm bigger than the natural laws, if I take this little microphone right here and I drop it and I catch it, in my hand. I didn't break natural law. Gravity was still working, but I was stronger than the gravity and I transcended it. If you believe in a God that transcends natural law, he can act within that natural law and still make something happen that's unexplainable to our eyes or even to our logical understanding. And so we always say that we want to see God move, but what happens is as soon as something supernatural happens, you explain it away. Somebody gets healed and we say, well, maybe the doctors misread the scan, or maybe you just misunderstood. I mean, we were praying for a guy back in 1999, 1998. We were praying for a guy who was deaf in his left ear, and suddenly he could hear. And people go, I don't believe that. I don't care what you believe. I saw it. I was there. The dude was deaf in his left ear, and we were praying for him. I've seen stuff in third world countries. There's a whole other story. I've seen some things. I could tell you stories all day long about things I've seen. It's wild. And some of it not so godly, some of it very dark, some of it very evil. But in a lot of those places where they've embraced the juju and the witch doctors and the dark magics and the black magic and the white magic, and you say, oh, it's just a whole bunch of superstition. Well, I'll tell you what, those people don't believe that. They live by it, dude, and they live by those curses. And there's a lot of stuff that when they start seeing the supernatural stuff that God does through Christ, through the power of the Holy Spirit in their midst, they don't have a problem with it because they've seen that supernatural stuff. But, I see people who say, this happens, a person gets set free, and you're like, oh, they had that addiction or they're an alcoholic or whatever, and God set them free. Oh, they'll go back to it, Yeah. But see, we've gotten uncomfortable with the miraculous, not because God stopped doing miracles, but because we stopped believing that he will. And I will say this, everybody wants to see the Red Sea get parted, but nobody wants to have, a nation of Egyptians behind them ready to come slaughter you and your family that you're not going to get away from unless the Red Sea opens. So a miracle means you've given up. I mean, there's no other recourse.
Yeah, I like what I'm seeing in the chat, Chad, that they're putting their miracles in the chat.
It's fantastic. Yeah. And people will testify to that.
Load the chat up with these miracles because that's testimony to other people.
Yeah. And, I love to see it.
It's man, it just triggered some things in my mind with like different things, events with the birth of my children and stuff. We had some miracles, and I know they were miracles, and but it's reminders, and I think sharing those miracles, those small miracles, makes me tear up a little bit. I think about it.
I'm telling you, man, God's a powerful God, and people have reduced, supernatural things with God working in people's lives. They call it superstition, and they call their unbelief logic or wisdom or reason. But look, God hasn't changed. Hebrews 13:8 says that Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So if he's opened blind eyes back then, if he's raised the dead, if he's multiplied bread and calmed storms, what makes us think he's retired from that now? It's not that heaven's power is dimmed. It's that our expectation has. And I think we've let disappointment and disillusionment and doubt train us out of a childlike faith and wonder. We've prayed, and once it didn't happen, now we're going to act like faith is foolish. But, miracles were never about getting us what we want. It's not about manifesting the jet airplane for the preacher. It's about getting God to show you who he is. And maybe the reason we don't see them often, and by the way, if you saw them often, they wouldn't be called miracles, they'd be called naturals.
I like
They'd be called normals.
Keep the miracles coming in the chat. I love it.
I mean, I love it. Blow it up with your miracles, because I'm telling you, we've settled into a life that doesn't need miracles anymore. We've got insurance for everything. We got medication, therapists, GPS, Wi-Fi, backup plans, side hustles. You built a lifestyle. You got an escape plan. You got a safe room. You got a lifestyle. You don't have to depend on God unless something really goes sideways. And then when things do go sideways, we wonder why the miracles feel so far away. But listen, faith isn't just for emergencies. Faith is a lifestyle.
I'm going to read one that grabbed me out of here. It's John Kennel 5. The Lord set me free of 10-year habit of crack and meth. I've been free now 16 years. That's a miracle.
Absolutely, brother. Let them phones ring. Come on. We're manning the phones. 24.
I like seeing that because those miracles are messages of hope.
So the posture to put yourself into for the miraculous, I believe, is this. You say, God, I can't. I know you can. I trust that you might. And even if you don't, I still believe you. And that's a powerful thing. That's the space where I believe miracles catch breath. Because in Mark 6, Jesus went to his hometown and says he couldn't do many miracles there because of the unbelief of the people in the town. It wasn't because he lacked power. He didn't stop being the Son of God, but because the people lacked faith. So if that doesn't rock you, it really should. The Son of God, limited not by his hands but by their hearts. It tells me something that God doesn't force his power on anybody. He responds to faith, not big fancy overhyped faith, just the mustard seed faith. And I'll say something about the whole mustard seed thing, because with the Ozzy Osbourne deal, people say, well, what if he had the faith of a mustard seed? That'd be fantastic if he did, because in that context, when Jesus was talking about the mustard seed, it was actually a rebuke of his disciples because they were trying to cast out demons and they couldn't do it. And they said, why can't we do it? Jesus, we saw you do it. We're not allowed to do it. What's the deal? And Jesus said, if you had the faith of a mustard seed, that tiny seed that grows up into a large tree, he says, you'd be able to move mountains. You'd be able to move mountains. But here's the issue. It wasn't the size of the faith. It was the authenticity of the faith. So no matter how small it was, if it was still real, that's what would matter. So, you don't need some big overhyped faith. You just need mustard seed size. And so you say, Lord, I believe, help my unbelief. And I think God's still going to honor that simple kind of trust. I've seen people healed. I've seen not only that, marriages restored. Dead-end situations flip over in a moment. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes the miracle is the peace in the middle of the chaos. Sometimes it's clarity when the confusion is winning. Sometimes it's a soul that should have snapped when it didn't, and we miss it because we're so busy looking for fire from heaven to notice the quiet mercy right in front of us. The miracles aren't always flashy. They're faithful. Signs that God are still present and powerful and still personal. But, I got to see it if I'm going to believe. Well, maybe you stop believing and praying with those bold prayers because you're afraid of being disappointed again. But God might be waiting on your expectations. Maybe you just need expecting him, and then maybe then he can move because it's your unbelief. So, James 4:2 says you have not because you ask not. So anyway.
Amen. You ready for the last one?
I get fired up talking about this stuff, man.
I know.
So yes, he still does miracles. I truly believe that.
Yeah, I do too. Absolutely.
All right, what's the next one? We got to move.
This hits close to home because I've been, through phases in my life. Why are so many Christians burned out? And is it because we're carrying things God never gave us?
Well,
and
I'll tell you.
And when I say burned out, like personally, I don't mean burned out on faith.
That's church.
Yeah, or, that kind of thing.
People.
Burned out on people.
And I've been there. I've often said a cynic is a passionate person who's tired of being disappointed. And you meet those people that says, yeah, I used to go to church, and they're like, I had somebody tell me yesterday that people like me are the reason they quit going to church. That's not true. You're the reason you quit going to church.
Yeah, there's only one person to blame.
Yeah, you're the one who quit. You just found a reason to quit. And I know there's some assholey people in church. See, I can say that. I can say that because I'm not a pastor. People are always like, Chad, you should pastor, go back to pastoring. I'm like, no, because I like to tell people they're assholes. Yeah. And there's some assholey people in the church. And, God's sanctifying me like he's working on you too. But I'll just say this. There's some people who turn folks off with Christ. There really are. I get that. I do appreciate that. It's not necessarily that Christ is offensive, and he is, but sometimes people are offensive with Christ. But sometimes people are carrying something that is heavy that nobody ever helped them lift, and they didn't get ministry, or they were looking for something. And if you're down on the church, I like to remind people you need to get up on the church because Christ is up on the church because that's his bride. And I'm not talking about the average, body or group of people who get together on a Sunday morning. I'm talking about the true remnant of church, the people who are really acting by faith, believing God for those miracles and salvations and those things. A place where you can go find a refuge. And somewhere along the line, we told people that loving Jesus meant signing up, showing up, and never slowing down. You serve here, you lead this committee, you smile wide, you act fine, put on your mask, even when you're falling apart on the inside. So it's no wonder that people feel burnout when it comes to spiritual things or church. But they've been buried under these spiritual expectations that Jesus never gave to them. Matthew 11:28, Jesus says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, I'm going to give you rest. And to be honest, there's a lot of people that aren't actually finding rest in the church. Too many are finding stress or pressure. It's not that the church is bad, it's that we've sometimes confused busyness for faithfulness. We've created cultures where you're more valued for what you do than for who you are. And we find our identity in the noise and not in the quiet. So, people don't necessarily walk away from Jesus in that. They walk away from the constant pressure to prove themselves in his name. And when you finally stop showing up, they don't feel missed. They sort of feel replaced. And that's a hard thing, to feel replaced or reduced, And Jesus didn't die to put you on a treadmill of religious obligation. He died, listen to me, folks, he died to set you free from that. You're not on the performance track. You're not doing a 360 review in order to see if your performance measures up to Joe Christian over there. He died to set you free. So if you're exhausted, it's not because you failed. It's because you're carrying something God never told you to pick up. So maybe lay it down. That could be the shame. It could be the hustle. It could be the performance that God's not asking for. He's not asking for perfection. He's asking for presence. He wants your presence. He's asking for you. He doesn't want your resume. He doesn't want your LinkedIn profile. He's not asking for a religious track record. He wants your heart. So if you're burned out, don't give up on Jesus. Give up on the weight. Give up on the thing that's causing you to burn out, and let Jesus remind you that you are without pressure, because rest isn't a reward for working hard in the kingdom of God. Rest is the starting line. You start from a place of rest, and maybe you need to cross over that starting line, because that's why the Sabbath. People will argue with you on this, but let me tell you, this is why we went from celebrating in the Old Covenant the Sabbath, which was Saturday, was the day of rest, that now it moved to the Resurrection Day, which is Sunday, the first day of the week, which becomes the Lord's Day. It's a day of celebration and rest, because that's Resurrection Day, and that's why we should start our day on Sunday, not Monday. That's why people have Blue Mondays, because they didn't have celebration Sundays, right? And so what you got to do is learn where to find the rest. The rest is not at the end. The rest is at the beginning. You start from a place of rest. And if you're not doing that, you've got the pattern all confused. You got to get inside here and find that place of peace.
Yeah. I'm not so hung up on the day of the week, because what is today? Thursday, and we just had church. And I'm okay with that. And starting September 1st, I believe Chad Church is moving to Friday, right?
I think we are going to start doing a Friday Chad's Church unique to that, so we'll do it. And we thought about doing a whole new show compared to that, but I think we just keep adding it on to the Chad Prather Show. Why create something new?
Yeah,
right?
Why create something new? Let's keep adding on, because I enjoy getting to sit in on Chad Church on Thursdays. So
I'm on a mission, man. I really am on a renewed mission. I've been through some dark places here in recent days, and a lot of it's my fault. And just you go, and you just burn the candle at both ends, and you get tired, and you try to find, So I'm preaching to myself when I talk about that stuff.
You're preaching to me too, so keep it up. I need it. I need all I can get. So speaking of September 1st, of course, we're launching the new Chad Prather Show, all brand new. What do you have in mind?
Well, we're going to have, it's going to be some new branding, going to have a new look. We'll see what we got to do. I don't want to reveal too much, but it's got some cool stuff. It's already set and ready to go. We're going to have some new dynamics that are going to be on there. And it's going to be, David might give you a little sneaky peeky right there of some things that are coming. Look at that, little sneaky.
Time slot? What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm curious to hear from you guys in the chat. Is this a good time slot? I mean, Colbert has vacated his slot late at night. We could always play it late at night.
I go to bed at 8:30, Chad.
And I don't know. David's in Portland, so it would make for an early day for him. But if we maybe pre-recorded or something like that, we could always toss it right after Dear America for the people that don't want to raid Vince. They could come right to the Chad Prather Show. I don't know.
That would be 9 a.m. Central there.
Yeah.
So,
and we could keep it right here at 1. I mean, a lot of people have come to expect it here at 1. We do need to grow the show. I mean, this show has gone from, 10 years ago when I first started, we were audio only. We were in the top 25 of podcasts across the country, across the world. I mean, we were in the top 25 of all podcasts because we were in on it early. And now we're not, obviously. Censorship is real. And I don't mind this time slot. I really don't. So, we'll see what we decide to do.
All right.
But And you and I go to bed pretty early, dude.
We do. I just don't want anybody to be mad at us if we change the time slot.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
I
people
don't
are
want
gonna be
anybody
mad.
mad at me ever. I hate it. I hate
Yeah.
being mad. I hate it when someone's mad at me.
I'm
Can't
not a
stand it.
fan of it, but I've gotten used to it.
Yeah,
You know,
you're good at accepting the hate, and I'm not good at it. That's why I don't read the comments online.
you know, I get people are going to chew my ass out no matter what. So, you know, this time of day, I encourage people, if you're a part of it, please share it. You know, you hit the little share button if it's on YouTube or Rumble, and share it to your Facebook or an X account or Instagram. Or if you see, you know, the link to it, you can always copy that and put it somewhere. And yeah, I don't mind. You know, it's a good time, but we'll see. But I'm looking forward to some new branding. We're working on some different studio stuff. I've been kind of in parts unknown all week long. I just needed to not go home. You know, I got out and took off and did a show in Nashville, and I just decided I didn't want to go home yet. So I've been out, man. I may never go home, Steve.
Yeah. Hey, as long as you're happy where you're at, I'm okay. I'm happy. So
I could
if
just be
you're happy
somewhere
being halfway across the country from me, I'm happy for you. I'd rather have that than you sitting next to me miserable.
Well, I keep looking out this window here. I'm looking at the most gorgeous, beautiful water. It's just you know, you just got to get away sometimes and let peace grab you. I will be in Lubbock tomorrow night for a comedy show that I'll be doing at the Cactus Theater. Last time I was there, 2018, I wound up with major surgery. We've been to Lubbock since then, but 2018 was the last time we were at the Cactus. So a couple of tickets left. It's going to be sold out. So if you're in the Panhandle and you want to drive over, come hang out. Steve's not going to be there, so it's going to be a quick turnaround. Steve, I'm coming to you, baby. I'm coming to you Saturday morning, Daddy.
I'll be waiting for you. So.
Be ready for me. Lil Weasel 78 said, I loved it at 2 p.m. each, and I get to catch y'all while I'm at work. And it's days like this that hit me when I need it, so thank you for all you do. I don't mind this time slot. I really don't. The beauty of it is, even if people don't catch it live, they can always rewatch it. Or I enjoy the live chat, you know. But again, you know, you watch Graham's show in the morning, it's hard to keep up with the live chat because they're moving so fast.
Yeah, I can keep up. I got it on the big screen over here, so I can keep up with the chat pretty good. So I read it what I can.
Yeah.
And also, what you got planned for September 7th?
Steve Powell, Party Foul Steve at Lucy Blues in Conroe, Texas. We're having Steve Powell's 55th birthday celebration. Lucy Blues.
We're not performing.
Bam, bam, bam. No, it's just a party.
We're just having a party.
On Sundays, we go to our friend Darren and Debbie Cross and Lisa Wong. They own Lucy Blues there in Conroe, Texas. It's our little upscale dive bar. It's our blues bar. That's where we hang out on Sundays. We watch baseball and football and whatever else we're doing. But we're going to have Steve's birthday September 6th. We're going to have a little party extravaganza, so everybody's invited. Doesn't cost you a thing to be there. So start driving now. Yeah. September 7th, Lucy Blues, Conroe, Texas.
You got another super chat just popped up.
Pop it in there. Let's see what we got. We got to jump out of here pretty quick. Lines fade. See you tomorrow, Chad. Hopefully get to hug your neck again. You're going to hug it. You're going to hug it, Lines fade. We're going to be there. It's going to be a good time. So listen, I want y'all to follow Steve. Follow him at Party Foul Steve on Venmo. I took my Patriot Crew shirt off because it was getting a little sweaty and dirty here. All I ever wear is the Patriot Crew shirts. Go to patriotcrew.co. Use promo code CHAD10 and get those shirts that we've been wearing.
I wear size large, Chad. If you can, I need a budget for shows.
You do love free stuff.
I like it. I like free stuff.
They got the collared shirts. I wore one to dinner last night. And then don't forget our lovely, wonderful, amazing, miraculous producer, David, at David Medina PDX on all the socials, and subscribe to his YouTube as well. And check out our shorts that we're putting on the socials as well, our little minute-and-a-half commentaries that are usually different from what we talk about on the show. And then we might toss in a couple of 10-minute, 15-minute clips on breaking headlines. Rest in peace, Hulk Hogan. Stay tranked up. Hillary Clinton, Party Foul Steve. I will see you Saturday morning. For the rest of you, I'll see you on Monday, if not before. God bless you. I love you so much. Stay prayed up and let the Lord be the center of your life. And we will talk to you later. Bye.